Hello everybody, good afternoon for most of us, I think. Did you ever feel like you're missing out? I think we all have over the last 18 months. Talking of which, I've ensured that I've made good use of that time to read up on my favourite Greek philosophers. Now, I'm sure you recognise this chap here, Socrates, and I can tell you with certainty that he said the person who desires something desires what is not available to them. The fear of missing out, FOMO, is a phobia that has affected people throughout generations, infiltrating into all areas of our lives. The grass is always greener, whether you're a hungry Holstein cow, or indeed whether you're the hard-working leader of a creative team. I'm sure you've looked enviously at a friend or industry peer who launched that campaign or won that award, who gets all the PR coverage and steals all those staff, designers, that creative director you had your eye on. Or maybe you're just this lucky person, where you're the only one who doesn't suffer from this terrible affliction. But surely they have the constraints that you have. Surely their budgets are not massively bigger. What could they possibly be doing that you're not? Now, the answer may well be that they are selectively, often secretly and smartly outsourcing. And I know because many of them work with us. So from giant brands like Microsoft and Sam's Club to fast-growing startups like Catapult, if you look around, so many creative leaders are harnessing the power of outsourcing. And not just brands. I can tell you that many agencies, like the multi-award-winning Transmission, are in on the act. Now, the benchmark report Delivering Offshore Success by TKM Consultants reported that 76% of agencies currently offshore some level of creative production. And according to IHAF, 75% of in-house agencies have been offshoring for at least 2 years. So if you haven't yet, then why not? You could, after all, be missing out. Now, we know that some might still be reluctant to adopt outsourcing as a standard business practice. Maybe you feel you've got the skills already in-house. You worry, what will the team think? How do you maintain control over the work? Will your production partner ever understand your brand? Well, in this session, I look at why you may be missing out by not taking advantage of outsourced creative production. Now, there's going to be quite a lot to take in. And if you're watching from your home office, I know it's not easy to capture everything. So we've set everything out in this new free-to-download white paper, which explores outsourcing in more detail. A guide to outsourcing for creative teams is now available from our website, ekcs.co, to download. More about that later on. So let's start. Let's keep it simple. Outsourcing, particularly offshore, does save money. Let's not deny the basics. The cost issue looms large as marketing directors and CMOs are under pressure to prove the return on investment on their campaigns and projects, something that hiring additional freelancers or extra staff might make it difficult to achieve, Budgets are tight, you can't deny it. The COVID-19 pandemic has significantly impacted the creative services industry, with over half of marketers experiencing a decrease in their marketing budget, according to Marketing Week. So you really have no alternative but to do at least the same, but for less. An article published by Campaign Live highlighted how Nestlé was able to reduce production costs by as much as 80% using offshore production partners. So how do you think their creative director spent the money saved? Well, it's possible that he did a little, or she did, upgrade to their home office. Perhaps some lovely leather upholstered furniture and some wooden bookshelves to go with their 55-inch massive screen. But of course, you'll be still sitting at your screen thinking, I don't think we're ever going to outsource. And if so, you're not alone. Many have thought that at some point, but remember, cost isn't the only benefit of outsourcing. There's time. If you think about it, we outsource loads of tasks on a daily basis. The day you first hired a dog walker might have been scary at first, especially when they turned up looking like the one that I hired recently. Your laundry, your vehicle maintenance, what's the big deal about outsourcing? There's your domestic cleaning, your taxes, your hairdressers. And, well, maybe you could do some of these things yourself, with the possible exception of your hair, although I know some of us have tried it over the last 18 months. But it not only frees up time for you to do what you want to do, but it also gives the work to someone who actually may be more skilled at it, who can do the task quicker, maybe even to a better standard. And if they do this all the time, then they might actually have something to teach you. So many agencies are keeping the creative in-house and offshoring the at-scale or specialist asset production to a trusted partner that can do the job properly within an agreed timescale. It really can save time to let your skilled in-house people focus on their strengths, creativity, design, and maybe even occasionally checking in on that dog walker. How's she getting on? Oh yeah, she's still drunk. Anyway, let's go back to our old friend Socrates. Remember, he said the man who desires something desires what is not available to him. Well, I've got some news for you, sockers. It is available. Agencies who outsource to us have access to a highly experienced and highly capable offshore team that can scale up or down to accommodate your peaks and troughs. They might even work round the clock to get your work done while you're sleeping. Can you imagine? Sleeping! Who wouldn't want more time for their in-house team to actually think, even if you only outsource small tasks? Who wouldn't want, say, just 10 extra hours for their in-house team? It's like having a person day available, an extended one. You ever look at rival agencies or in-house agencies and wonder how they got to produce that sleek campaign in-house? They probably got some help for it. It's not realistic that your employees are always going to have the production skills you need or be as fast as they could be, let alone know how to, say, automate certain types of work. Hiring art workers ad hoc often leads to a significant cost in time and money, and it's hardly a strategic move. This can be avoided when you outsource to a known and trusted partner. The thing is, the agency next to you, you see, the ones you assume do everything in-house, well, they might just be outsourcing too, and you wouldn't know it. Okay, so there are some benefits of outsourcing, but there are reasons why people are often reluctant and haven't tried it yet. It has, after all, had a bad reputation over the years. I mean, there are so many examples of outsourcing gone wrong. IBM managed, or should I say mismanaged, a project for the Australian state of Queensland, which was expected to cost $6 million, but it ended up costing $1.2 billion. So what does the person who signed off on that one say to their boss after that? Oh, I'm sorry I blew $1,194,000,000. Am I fired now? Yep, I thought so. In 2010, Virgin Atlantic outsourced their IT support to a vendor that quickly resulted in their systems crashing and 50,000 passengers grounded and furious. Well, we typically see three main causes of reluctance to outsource. Some have had a bad experience, or very often know someone who has, which has understandably led to a negative perception of outsourcing. Refugees from this kind of experience tell us that they saw work coming back late, it was shoddy, there was no QC, that their vendor habit of saying, yep, when they actually meant no. Working with the wrong outsourcing provider is at the root of many problems that we observe in outsourcing. You need to get to know each other, not jump right into a situation from which you cannot easily escape. Oh. Some brands are worried about the effect on staff. Remember, creative production outsourcing is about enabling your staff to do more. It's not about trying to reduce headcount. Sure, you can save on freelancers and paying overtime, but a key sell is that outsourcing enables your department to do more interesting work. And here's the truth. Your lead designer probably has FOMO, and they can't get the time to really dive deep into their creative work. Do your designers really want to resize print adverts? Do your UX gurus crave creating multiple banner versions? I suspect they would prefer to be working on ideation and developing their next creative ideas and catching those 40 winks themselves. It's all about communicating this to the team early on and getting buy-in. Have too many secret and furtive meetings about outsourcing and the team might just start talking. And of course, there is always the risk that internally and externally, the move to outsourcing can lead to a massive time suck. Some will have experienced outsourcing before and found they had to over-explain production briefs, enforce brand guidelines themselves, and waste time managing the offshore process rather than enjoy those benefits of saved time that I've been talking about. The words offshore and outsourcing might be worrying. You're expected to take your beautiful creative ideas and hand them over to total strangers. So you're going to wonder, will they treat them with the respect they deserve? Will they make the right decisions about item alignment or placing the call to action when it comes to unusual ad sizes, say? How will you know whether they've started the work yet, or more importantly, whether they'll finish on time? You can only come to terms with this when you get to know each other. Time and familiarity and building of trust are the only ways to be confident that your ideas will be properly nurtured. Done correctly with the right production partner, outsourcing is a valuable addition to your creative department. It can present many risks. I think we've all come across the wrong hairdresser at least once in our lives. Except, of course, the Prime Minister of my country, who spends an absolute fortune in taxpayers' money, making him look deliberately like a total idiot. So how can you avoid those mistakes and use outsourcing effectively? How to avoid a bad outcome? If they, the outsourcing partner, take the time to understand your brand, your workflow, and your briefing, it's a good sign. If they clearly know your language, and I mean the jargon that we as an industry use, not just English here, you'll start to feel you're talking to someone who isn't saying, yep, we can do the job, just tell us how to do it. Start small with your production partner. Get to know each other. It's like a first date, so treat it as such. A small campaign or a project is a safe way to go. At EKCS, QC and brand governance are something we pride ourselves on, and many of our first-time clients will test the water first before using us on an ongoing basis. It works both ways. We need to be sure that we can work with your team as well. Outsourcing can look like a smart move if it's framed correctly. The reality is that outsourcing the production of your work enables you to focus on what you enjoy rather than where you don't have skills or have staff that are overqualified. According to the IHAF 2018 State of the Industry report, 2/3 of in-house agencies are not adequately staffed to carry out mass creative production and distribution. In 2018, we had a new client. They told me how frustrated their creative director was that they were never in the running for any creative awards. After finding out that his CD and their team were in fact used to such recognition and seeing the kinds of work they produced, it was a clear case of chronic FOMO. But once they started with us, they freed themselves up, they raised their creative game, and the next year they were nominated. And last year, they won. And this proved that when freeing up the team and enabling them to focus on what they do best, creative is the winning formula. And the real key was that, in their own words, EKCS worked as an extension of the in-house team, and buy-in was started early. And when creatives are brought into the process early, there are real advantages. Our guys work closely with your guys. Early on in the process, we have welcome sessions where the offshore team collaborates and gets to know you, and it really does become that extension, another allied department. Relationship building is utterly fundamental to building trust, and the in-house team must be embedded early. Working with the right outsourcing partner enables you to have significant control of your campaigns and projects. Done the right way, as I've mentioned, you'll even have the wholehearted support of your creative in-house team. You really will. In the outsourcing failures I mentioned earlier, these are all consequences of lacking control. But once you've got to understand each other, you'll find your partner, far from actually removing control, gives you power steering. and a dashboard. With cruise control, you'll get lane guidance, all the other fancy bells and whistles we're getting used to today. And if you don't have good workflow controls, just use our award-winning Media Ferry system. Don't just keep in control, use the extra control you will now have to your advantage. American management consultant Peter Drucker wrote in the Harvard Business Review back in the 1980s, "Do what you do best and outsource the rest." Now, I don't know if he was referring to dog walking or babysitting, but it is good advice. Outsourcing should only ever be a small percentage of your budgets, maybe only 5 to 10 or even 15%, but having it there will be a lifesaver at some point. And as we've mentioned, introducing a pilot project can be a great way for the new partner to understand current ways of working and iron out any issues that might only get noticed once the real work starts. It's also a way to test whether you're working with a partner and not a vendor. If you're new to outsourcing, then please reach out to me directly, use my email address or on LinkedIn. Let's look at a pilot campaign or a test project. In fact, that's how many of our best and longest term client relationships, some are 10 years or more, they started with small campaigns or outsourcing projects that have grown into long-term trusted partnerships. And don't forget, the EKCS Guide to Outsourcing is ready for you to download. This guide looks at the benefits of outsourcing, what to consider in an outsourcing partner, and tips on how you can get started with outsourcing. Visit ekcs.co. You'll see a link to the white paper under resources, and we'll send it right over to you. And if you want to speak to me directly, just send me an email. So, back to FOMO, the uneasy and sometimes all-consuming feeling that you're missing out. And in my opinion, if you aren't outsourcing, you really are missing out. As our old friend Socrates, always a man with the right word, also said, understanding a question is half an answer. So my final question to you is, if your competitors are outsourcing, then why aren't you?